Ma'am, you have to slightly pull down
Yeah,
your
yeah.
video. Okay, fine. Okay, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. It's my great privilege and honor to welcome Nick Peachey, the guest speaker of today, on behalf of the President, Mr. Kannappan, and Secretary Bharat, and members and office bearers of Rotary Club of Madras, Coromandel. I welcome the enthusiastic participants who have supported and been with us through the lecture series. For the sake of teacher wellness during this pandemic, when schools and colleges have been closed for almost 6 months now, the Rotary Club of Madras Coromandel has conceptualized the 6 live lecture series under the Bharat Padhe online campaign to help, support, and empower teachers to switch over to online teaching quite effectively and with ease. The Rotary Club of Madras Coromandel is pleased to invite applications for the Innovative Teacher Award 2020. The objective is to encourage and motivate teachers of higher education and school teachers across the globe to rethink, re-engineer, reinvent the disrupted education system in science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and to make the whole experience pleasant. The deadline for submission of innovations will be September 30th, 2020, and categories of innovations in tech tools for teaching and learning, syllabus, courses, course books, and apps across curriculum will be accepted. The participants will be sent a Google form to submit, and 5 shortlisted candidates will be informed on October 30th. They will be given 5 minutes to present their innovations in front of a jury virtually on November 11th, the Literacy Day. Judges' decisions will be final and there shall be no further discussion regarding the same. Winners shall be notified by mail and stand chances to win exciting rewards like Nick Peachey's Hacking Creativity book as PDF, and special mention in our social media will be made, and RCMC has the right team of innovations to publish in journals across the globe. Now, the speaker for today is Nick Peachey on adapting coursebooks for remote teaching and learning. Nick Peachey is a freelance teacher trainer, materials writer, blogger, and consultant specializing in digital publishing and the development of digital resources for teachers. He has been involved in English language teaching since 1992 and has worked all over the world as a teacher, trainer, and project manager. Believe me when I say I've been his great fan and follower since 2000. Every day morning, I would start my day with Nick's posts on Twitter, Scopit, blogs, and immediately after I brush my teeth, it'll be just enough to tailor my classes. He has a whole range of resources from the primary upwards to the tertiary level. Here we go with Nick's bio. Award-winning materials writer and instructional designer. It's interesting to read out everything because we need to know the kind of resources that are available and how resourceful we can turn out to be. And therefore, I'm going to read them all. His key skills include strong commercial awareness of the international ELT sector, consistent track record of designing and developing high-quality innovative products, ability to manage multiple projects simultaneously and under pressure, strong attention to detail and focus on task completion, demonstrated success in product execution and launch, ability to improve efficiency and reduce operating costs whilst increasing customer satisfaction and retention, proven ability to identify new customer and partnership opportunities, ability to perform qualitative and quantitative research with existing and potential customers, ability to work with, support, and motivate cross-functional teams, exceptional intercultural awareness and sensitivity. Previous clients and employers have included Google Creative Labs, British Council, BBC, International House, Open University, Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, Macmillan, Bell Educational Services, Westminster University, and a number of smaller startup companies. Nick, we welcome you, and now the floor is yours. If you
Thank you.
can take
Thank you very
questions,
much.
you may allow that. Over to Nick.
Okay, I'll just start sharing my screen again. Okay, thank you everyone for coming along. And if you'd like to, you can turn off your videos and turn off your microphone, and you might get better connectivity that way if you're having any connectivity problems. I will use the chat from time to time to ask, oh, sorry. Yeah, just click the wrong buttons, apologies. I will use the chat from time to time to ask you a few questions. So please, leave your chat window open where you can see it. And I might be putting some questions and some links into that. So be aware of the chat. Okay. I don't think I need to go into this slide very much. I've already had sort of an ample introduction, but if you want to find out more about the things that I do, then at the end of the presentation, I'll give you a link to this presentation, and it has all of the links here live. And you can go along and check out my different social media things along the bottom here and the different things that I share there. So do check those out later. As for now, these are some of the things that I want to cover. I want to look a bit at the background to sort of developing materials for the remote classroom and where I'm coming from on that and my previous experience of doing that. I'd also like to look at some of the challenges that I've faced with developing these kinds of materials. I'll show you some examples of the materials that I've created for the remote classroom. And then we'll look at some of the tools that I use to create those materials. And the tools that I use to create the materials are mainly free tools, or they have a free version. So they are all tools that you can use yourself. And then at the end, if there's any time, we'll deal with any additional questions. Okay. And as I said again, there's no need to take notes if you don't want to. I'll share the presentation with you at the end and you can go through it then. Okay, so basically I want to look quickly at the background and the challenges to this project, to this presentation. My previous experience of working in remote schools goes back quite a long way. I actually launched my first blended learning course with my students back in 1999, I think it was. And I had my first experience of teaching online in 1998. So that's kind of the last century. More recently, about 4 years ago, I was working for a 100% online school, which had 70 teachers all over the world in different countries and about 2,000 students. And what I found with that school, when our teachers were looking for materials to teach with, it was very difficult to find something at the time that was suitable for this remote learning environment. Course books weren't particularly suitable. Most teachers were used to using a paper course book, but they didn't want to put those up in front of the screen. Students didn't have course books. They wanted something more personalized. And we found that a lot of the materials made for the physical classroom weren't really suitable, and they needed to be adapted. I'm just going to do a quick questionnaire with you to see if you have similar challenges. There's a QR code at the top here. If you have a phone, you can scan the QR code and get a questionnaire. If you don't have a phone, I'll just give you the link to this through the chat. And there's the link in the chat now to the questionnaire. So open the questionnaire and just tell me a little bit about the materials that you're using now. Are they produced in-house at your school? Have they been adapted from published materials? Or are they things that you've bought specifically for remote classes? Tell me a little bit, which of those three options, what are you using for teaching your remote classes? And we'll see what the results are here. I've done this questionnaire with a few other schools, so you can see generally what's happening around the world. quite a lot of schools have produced their own materials or tried to produce their own materials. Some have adapted materials, published materials, and the majority have from course books from the conventional publishers, but very few have actually bought in materials that are specifically designed for this environment. And finding materials to buy is very difficult, you know, because most materials just haven't been developed for this kind of environment, even though online and remote teaching has been around for quite a long time. Another quick questionnaire. Again, this is helping me a little bit with my research into sort of the materials that people are using. How satisfied are you with the materials that you use, and how well do they do their job? Again, I'll pass this questionnaire through the chat so that you can do it through chat, or I'll show you how to do it. So, depending on how strongly you agree, I'm happy with the materials we use in the remote classroom. You can go 10 if you think that the materials that you're using are marvelous. If you're not happy, then go back to 1 and then just click submit when you're ready. If you have a QR code scanner on your phone, you can scan this straight into your phone. If not, just use the link that I've put into the chat. And again, you know, internationally, this is what we're looking at. Sort of most people are around, you know, 6 out of 10. So, you know, there's certainly room there for improvement. Only 10 people of the people that I've surveyed have said that they're very happy. Most are around this area. Okay, so that's sort of something that might be quite interesting. Okay, I'll move on. So let's just look at the challenges and why is it difficult to get materials to work in this kind of environment? I mean, one of the challenges is finding things that are visually attractive. You know, PDF materials that are pushed through this environment, usually in, you know, portrait A4, aren't particularly motivating or attractive or easy to see for students. Managing pair and group work in breakout rooms can be something that's very difficult for teachers here. You know, if you're working in Zoom and you have a presentation and you want your students to go to breakout rooms, as soon as they go to the breakout room, they can no longer see your presentation that's on the screen. So how do you deal with getting materials to your students while they're in those breakout rooms? Developing listening skills can be very difficult too. You know, where do you get your audio from? How do you play it to your students? You know, developing writing skills, the problems with challenges with developing writing skills. How do you get students to work together? How do you see what students are writing in this kind of environment? And the last one, developing reading skills. You know, again, reading from the screen from a presentation isn't a very good experience. So how do you get your students reading in an easy and comfortable way? Okay, so those are some of the things that I'll look at. I'll show you how I've dealt with some of those challenges in my own materials. Here are some examples. The first thing that I do is that, you know, to produce the materials, just as to produce the presentation that you're watching now, I used a technology called HTML5. HTML5 is technology that works in the web browser. So it will work in the web browser on any mobile device, whether it's Android, whether it's a tablet, whether it's an iPhone, or whether it's the student's computer or laptop. So that's great technology that works across all platforms, which is a real time saver. It's also web-based. So as long as students have an internet connection, which they need to for Zoom, they can access this technology. One of the things that I also do is I add these QR codes here so that my students, as soon as I launch the lesson, my students can scan that code with their phone, and then the material is accessible through their phone, and they can follow through on the slides, you know, just as I move through them on the presentation screen. I have also started moving these into apps now as well, which makes it even easier. one of the next things that I do, and what this technology is very useful for, is that you can embed the audio file into your slide and it will play directly from there. So this makes playing audio files for students much easier. So you can just sort of press and start, and students can start listening. As an alternative to that, I can add these interactive buttons to my presentations, and if students click on them, I can show them the audio there. They can scan the QR code if they just want to listen to the audio on their phone, or I have an audio link, so I just share this link with students and they can listen to the audio on their laptop. So I'm offering lots of different ways to get students to access the audio file and do the listening. They can either listen to it individually on their device by scanning the code or taking the link, or I can play it directly to the whole group. This ability to share the audios in this way, using these codes, means that students can actually listen to the audio in the breakout room and talk about it together. They don't have to be in the main room with me. So that again, that offers more alternatives and more flexibility when we're designing these materials. Another of the things that I do, and this uses another technology, is that I can embed interaction into my slides. And here's an example of an activity that I built to develop students' vocabulary before the listening. And so this is just sort of a simple vocabulary matching activity, and students can drag and drop the words and match them to the correct definitions. And again, we can either do this together in the classroom, and I can get students suggesting which things to drag where. I can get some instant feedback. Obviously, I'm not very good at this, and show solutions. Or I can get students to scan the QR code here, and then they can do it individually on their phone first, and then we can go to the main class to do feedback. So again, this is giving us a lot more flexibility in the way that we manage our classes and where students do it, and getting students working together in breakout rooms. Again, another thing that I like to try is I've always been very fond of dictation as a way of developing listening. And so I have a dictation activity here. And again, students can access this through the QR code and do it on their phone, or I can give them a link to it so they can open it separately, or we can do it together here. And what this has is short audio clips which students can listen to multiple times. And then students can listen. And then they can check. So far, they've got 16 out of a possible 100. So again, and retry. So again, I can do this together. We can do this together as a class, and students can do that listening, or they can scan it on their phone, or take a link and do it in breakout rooms, or do it individually and then share together. Alternatively, they could do it for home as homework, as a follow-up. But using this technology, I can build that kind of interaction into my lessons. I can also add images very easily and add external links. So this is an infographic, which actually sits on the internet, but I can sort of add a link here through this interactive button and sort of add that material, so that can add depth to my students' discussion. Another thing that I can do is, I can also add video-based activities, and here's an example. And again, students can either scan this and do it on their phone, it works on their phone as well, or there's a video here and an activity that they can watch. So this one's about a Muslim girl who becomes, this one's about a Muslim girl who becomes a world champion kickboxer, which is an amazing story. So students listen, and then they can just sort of recreate the start summary. And again, this is all interactive. So that, as you can see, they're getting their answers tracked as they work through. So they're getting some immediate feedback there. So they can do that individually on their phones and we can come to class, or they can do it in groups, in breakout rooms together on their phones, or I can pass a link to it through the chat window here, and they can do it on their computer in breakout rooms. Another of the things that I like to do is sort of role plays, these simple role plays just based around images, and you can either have speech bubbles or thought bubbles and use those as a prompt to get students working on creating dialogues for themselves. You know, that's something that works very well. It's very simple and easy to do. One of the great things about working online is that it does give us other opportunities to work in a different way. This activity is a split listening activity. So there are 3 different audios from 3 different people. And what I do is I put my students into groups of 3, and I get each one to download or scan the link to a different audio. Sorry. Then once each student has their audio, I put them into breakout rooms and they can listen to them, and then they discuss and compare what they're hearing. So each student is hearing different things from a different person, and then they have a task that involves, you know, comparing, seeing which one is the happiest, which one has the biggest problem. And so that makes sort of speaking much more interactive and much more, listening much more interactive, and turns it into a speaking activity too. So because they've all heard different things. And that kind of split listening activity is very difficult to do in a physical classroom, but quite easy to do in this kind of online classroom. So that's a nice way to exploit that. With reading texts, again, I've tried to break them down. And so behind this text is there's a text about some recommendations for a business weekend in Manchester, and it was quite a long text, so I've divided it into 4 parts. And so I can split students and get each one to do a different part. So each one finds out about the hotel, one finds out about tips for Friday, one for Saturday, one for Sunday, and they can either scan these onto their phones, or they can open them separately. So this is what it would look like when they open it on their phone. So I can give them a link to that, or they can scan it. And so it breaks this rather long text down into a shorter 4 parts, which is much more convenient to read over the phone. And very quick to get onto the phone. I'll just demonstrate that now if I can get mine to open. So here's my phone. I can just put it up there, and it's opening on my phone. And there's my text on my phone, and I can scroll up and down it very simply. You know, so that's a great way of easily putting the text that students need directly onto their phone. Then when they work in breakout rooms, they've got the materials that they need. Another thing that I can do is build these kind of activities around each of the texts, so that there's some follow-up, and again, you know, students can do those either individually or together. And they work through each different text, sort of mastering the vocabulary based on the script. So that's another way we can sort of make lessons more interactive. For role plays, if I want students to do role plays, again, I've got student A and student B, or here it's student 1 and student 2. Each one scans their role card, then they go into the breakout rooms. When they scan these, what they see is something like this. This is their role card. They click on it to turn it over, and it gives them their role description and what they do, what they should be doing when they go into the role play. So there's a different one for each student. Again, they just click and turn it over. So creating role plays, they can just either take those onto their phone, or you can share a link with them to them, so that they have the materials when they want to work in breakout rooms. Having the materials to work in these breakout rooms is so important because, if we want to make this kind of teaching really developmental and interactive and get students involved in actually learning the language and using the language, we must get our students into those breakout rooms. If we're just giving a lecture, then they're never going to become speakers of English. They need to go into breakout rooms and work with the language together. This is another example of the technology called HTML5. It makes it very easy to use video in your classes as well. You can simply embed a video into your presentation, and here it is, and students can watch it here. This is a video that's embedded from YouTube. I can have the sound up on or off if I want to. And again, I've got the QR code so students can scan it onto their phone if they want to watch it on their phone. And then here I have oh no, that's not that. And it has some interactive activities to go with it. So this one's about an old lady who has a robot. Students then reorganize the different parts of what happened, of the plot, and we also have some plot analysis. So students look at analyzing the plot, and this is a common plot that's used for a lot of narrative writing. So they look at the exposition and think about what parts were the exposition, rising action, climax, resolution, and denouement. So this is an interactive slide from HTML5, and if students just mouse over onto these different parts, we have more information for them to read. So again, that breaks down the text and makes it a little bit more interactive and makes my screen less cluttered. One of the other things I've done with the materials is produce quite a lot of blended learning materials to accompany it. And again, this is done with a technology that I'll show you soon called H5P. And this is a free technology that works, works with Moodle or WordPress. And again, so I've built listening activities that have closed tests, and students can type in and check their answers. It's a very common one. Another thing that I've done is built these structured writing activities, and these again can be scanned onto students' mobile phone. And this one is for students to create a film review. So it gives them some structure here. It tells them what to write about in each section, and then they just fill out their answers here. So they can fill in the different answers, and then go to the next page. And it says click on create a document, and it creates a document for them, which they can then download as a Word document or submit if this is part of a virtual learning environment. So then you see they can save it onto their hard drive and share it with the teacher for marking. The other way they can do it is they can copy paste as well, if they want to copy paste it. But that's a way of giving students structured writing activities that they can do on their mobile phone or their computer. And it gives them the structure, they just have to fill in the parts. That's a nice activity, but it still requires teacher marking, which can take up a lot of time if you've got large classes. This is a different kind of writing activity that can actually save a bit of time. And in this, again, this one works on the mobile device. In this activity, there's an image and students have to write a description of it. They can click on the image to enlarge it so that they can see it more clearly, and then they write their description here. Okay, so that's just a short piece of description as an example. And when they click check, what it does, oh, I've got to enter just a little bit more. When I click check, it actually gives me a mark from 400 in this case. So what it's actually checking is I've put in some keywords that students should be using to describe the picture, and these keywords are linked to scores. So if they use a more complex word, they get a higher score. If they use a simpler word, their score is lower. And if they miss the words, they don't get any mark at all. But this enables the computer to evaluate their writing based on the quality of the lexis that they're using. It doesn't mark grammar, but it marks lexis, and can give them some instant feedback on that. So if that's not good enough and they want to do better, they can try again and try a bit harder. So now they can add some more to it and get a higher score. So now I'm adding a bit more to try and get a higher score, and check again. And now my score's gone up to 170. So, you know, it's a writing activity, but it's an activity that encourages students to keep writing and keep trying and keep improving to improve their score. It does show them a solution at the end, and they, if you want it to, and they can compare their text to the one that's here and see what things they missed or what other things they could have included. It's a nice activity. It doesn't mark grammar, but it does, you know, give students some stimulation and some feedback on their writing. Some of the other kinds of activities that I created, this one I've showed you already, a summary based around a video. We can also produce flashcards. Again, these work on the phone. Oh, sorry, what's happened there? Okay, these work on the phone. And there is some capacity to do word grammar. So for example, this is an activity that I built to sort of look at different word order. So word order for descriptions. And again, they get some instant feedback. There is one other kind of activity which is very powerful, and this is a pronunciation check, and I'll just demonstrate this for you. This one only works in Google Chrome, and what I've done is I've created some example sentences, and students can test their pronunciation of these sentences. So to do this, they click on push to speak, and then they say the sentence, and I'll just demonstrate that. Location is very important to me, and I would really like to live close to the sea. Okay, and I've got that perfectly right, so I've got a star for that one. I can try another sentence, and I'll try getting this one wrong a bit. I really won't my house have lots light. Try again. So that one I need to retry. I really won't my house have lots light. Okay, and if I click on show the solution, it shows me what I should be saying and what the computer is hearing each time. So I get some speaking practice, and I get some instant feedback on my speaking. And that's made with a technology called H5P that I use quite a lot. And you can set that up to recognize different accents. So mine's set for a British English accent. You could have set it for an American English accent or an Indian English accent. So, you know, you have choices of accents that your students can aim for. Okay, so those were some examples, and now I'll look at some of the tools that I use to build them. So one of the key things that I'm using, which is used for this presentation and why I've built this presentation, and all my teaching classroom materials are built in this technology called HTML5. And to build the HTML5, I use a tool called Genially. And this is an HTML5 editor. It's free to use and it's web-based. It's very easy to use too. So this is what the interface looks like. I have different folders with different materials in here. And these are some examples of different presentations that I'm working on at the moment. If I just open one, I'll just click on edit to edit it. And you can see that all the slides of the presentation are down here, a little like if you're making a PowerPoint presentation. And then I have different tools to the far left of the screen. So there's a tool for adding text, tool for adding images, and there's lots of different images that are all copyright and royalty free that you can use. There's one that says resources, and this has lots of things like graphs and icons that you can use in your presentations. So lots of different icons that you can use. There are interactive elements. So if you want, if you saw those interactive buttons that I was using, those come from here. You can have smart blocks, which have some ready configured things. And this one here, which is insert. And this is how I drop in the videos. You can just add a link to a video here and it appears in your screen. You can add audio. You can actually record the audio directly here if you want to use your own voice as well. But it's very easy to upload those things. So if I'm uploading an audio from my hard drive, for example, just go to an audio file and click there, open, and the audio appears here. And then I can drag it onto my screen here and it will play there. So when I'm ready to launch my lesson, there's my audio there directly in it. Okay. If I don't want that audio, I just go up to the top here and delete it. I'll just go back to the pages here and just choose a blank page. So if I want images, it's very easy to find images. There's lots of different things here. I just type in search. And let's come on. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Let's go here. You can find images of India. I can drag them into here if I want to. I can animate that so that it zooms in or fades in, or if I want to, I can get it to slide up. So very easy to add those kinds of animations. And I can add links here as well. So I can add a tooltip. So there, so that when I show it, okay, it's going to slide in. And then I put my mouse over it, I get the link, Taj Mahal. If I want to, doesn't have to be a tooltip, I could add a window, or it could go to a different page in my presentation, or I could have a link out to a video or more information. So lots of different things I can link to through these different objects that I add to the screen. Adding text, very easy. Can just add some examples and then format them myself. And adding different icons, also very easy. And again, everything that you add here can be animated, or it can be linked to other things, either on the internet or things that you add. If I add a window here, and I can add more details in the window, or I could add a video there or an image if I want to. Can't find a suitable image at the moment, but again, that's very easy to do. And then when I've finished, that appears when it's clicked. So that's Genially, and that's the way of creating HTML5 presentations. And when I'm ready, I just click on there and I can launch the presentation. Oh, go back. Very simple to do, very quick to do, and then just share a link with my students and they can also watch it. So that's Genially, and that's what I use to create the basis of all my presentations and all my materials. If I want to if I want them my students to get them and to be able to scan them on their phone, then I use this technology called the QR code scanner. And again, it's very easy to use and free. And all I have to do when I want to share something with it, I'll just grab a link to this for a minute. So if this is something that I want to share with my students, then I go here, click on URL and paste the URL in, can make it shorter. And then I just click on save, give it a name. Click on save, and that saves that to my computer. And then I can add that to any materials that I want to share. So this one's called Mouse Story. So if I go back to let's go back to the editor. If I want to edit that now and put a QR code on it, I can just drag that into there, add the QR code here. And then when I share that with my students, they can scan that QR code and that material will be available directly onto their mobile device. So that's a very quick and easy way to get materials working on students' mobile devices in just minutes. And as you can see, let's see, there you can see it's on my phone now, and I can work through that on my phone. Okay, so that was the QR code scanner, and that's how I get the materials onto my students' devices. For building the interaction, now I use a tool called H5P. Again, as I said, this is free if you use it with Moodle or if you have a WordPress site. And again, this is where I can build most of the major interactions. And there are lots of different, really nice different interactions you can build using this tool. You can build all the standard things like drag and drop, exercises, filling the blanks. This is where I built the pronunciation activities. And but it also has some very nice ways of making video interactive as well. So for example, you can choose a video on YouTube that you want to use with your students. Just going to turn the audio off on this one. And then when you play it, you can add these interactive elements to the video so that you make sure students are watching actively rather than passively. So there's some ingredients for a recipe. They get a bit further. There's a multiple choice quiz. What kind of berry is this? And they can check as they go through so that you're checking their understanding as they work through the video. So high ingredients have been met, strawberries and milk, check. Okay, I've got one of them wrong, so it can get me to go back to the introduction and watch it again because obviously I hadn't understood it. Okay. Then when we get to this stage, there's a fill in the blanks activity. No. I can continue a bit further. Drag and drop quiz, which berries have been used. So again, as you can see, all the way through, and then there's a summary at the end of the recipe. So all the way through, students are being challenged to understand to prove that they understand what they've seen, and it's tracking, of course, what they've understood. So that's H5P, and there are lots of different types of interaction you can build for students there. So that's very, very useful. I'll just share the link to that with you right now if you want to have a look at some. So that's what I use to build all the interactive activities for my lessons and tasks. I mentioned briefly taking notes. One of the challenges is taking notes, and this is a very easy to use tool for taking digital notes. All that students have to do is, it's called Telegraph. They open it. Once it's open, they can write a title. Sorry, That's not really what was it? And then I can start taking notes here. If I want to, I can also add images to my notes, or I can embed in a video to my notes as well if there's something interesting, some interesting video I want to add. At the end of the lesson, or if I want to share my notes with someone, I click on publish, and then I've got the URL here, and I can share those notes with somebody else. I'm just sharing them briefly through the chat with you. So, if you want students to take notes during the lesson and then show you what notes they've taken, maybe they're doing a short piece of writing or making record of their vocabulary, they can use this tool, and then it's easy to share a link at the end. They can also edit it and change it if they want to, and you will see what changes they've made too. But again, a very simple and easy tool to use to get students taking notes or writing digitally and being able to share them with you. A nice thing to get students to do is to actually record audio and record their speaking. And again, this is a free tool to do that. So if you want students to do a bit of speaking practice individually, or if you want to record something for them to listen to, you can just open this link, click on the record button, and then say, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. The peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked were pickled peppers. Okay, and then okay, so that's the audio, that's the speaking activity of my students. I click save, and then I can get a link that I can share with my teacher here. I'll just put it into chat, sorry, and post it through chat so everyone can hear that. I can get a QR code for it if I want to. Let's click on here. It's not working at the moment. Or I can get an embed code for it. Or if I don't like it, I can just delete it and try again. So again, that's a really easy way to create audio for students, or get them speaking and creating audio that they can share for you, either as homework or during coursework. Could be to test their pronunciation, or could be a monologue speaking activity, but that's very easy to do. I'm having some problems with my browser. What's going on? Hang on, I think I've got some mouse problems. Keyboard there. Oh, that's okay. Just let me refresh a minute. Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing a minute and see if I can get that to work again. Good. Technical problems, technology, there's always problems. Okay, so hopefully you can see this screen. I talked a bit about writing activities, and one thing that you can do quite easily with this is get students writing collaboratively while they're online. And this is a tool called CryptPad. And it's easy to create a text that students can work on together while they're in their breakout rooms or remote classrooms. And all you do is you create this pad, you click on share, copy the link, and then you can share it with someone. I'll just share the link to you. Try this. And once you get that link, it's in chat now, you can click on it and we can all start writing together. And all of our writing appears together here. So if you click on that link now that I've just put in chat, you should be able to open this pad and start writing in it too. And so you can have groups of students writing on text together, peer editing their work. All you have to do is click here and they can start correcting each other's work. Somebody's just deleted mine. Thank you very much. I won't hold that against you, but you can start sort of anywhere on the pad and start writing. So that way we can get students working together collaboratively to either peer edit each other's work or correct mistakes in work or something like that, or reconstruct work together. It's better to have no more than 2 to 4 students working on each page. And as long as you've got a link, you can also go around and monitor what they're doing. So that's quite good. You can also get them to put in their names so that you know who's doing it. As you can see, over right on this side of the screen, my name's just appeared next to that to show that I'm the one doing this editing. Okay, I'll leave you to play with that for just a minute. And CryptPad has a number of different other things. It has a presentation, so you can get students to work on presentations together or spreadsheets. It also has a whiteboard, and there's a drive for you to save things into. So it's a great way of getting students to collaborate together online. Okay, so those are the tools that I use to produce my materials. I hope they're useful. I don't want to do too many more. If you're interested in finding more, there's a link here to a site called Tools for Teachers, which is something that I curate, and that has about over 1,000 different tools that we can use with our students to develop their learning. So check that out if you're interested in finding more different tools. I also have, there's a link here. I publish an educational technology newsletter once or twice a month. So if you'd like to subscribe to that, you can follow the link here and subscribe, and you'll get regular updates. There's a link to my blog here, which reviews different tools and learning resources, some of my publications and my presence on Twitter. So if you're interested in finding out more about what I do, come and check out these links here. Lastly, before we do a Q&A, there's a copy of a book here that I've written called Digital Tools for Teachers. If you open this, it says it's $6, but if you click on Buy Now and put in your details here and here, and then click on Add Coupon Code, there's a coupon code here, which is R98U1Q1GL6. So if you type that in, where's it gone there? If you type that into here, it will reduce the price to 0, and you can download the book for free, okay? So if you want to get a free book, it's quite an old book now, needs a bit of updating, but I will get around to updating it soon. Just click on the interactive button and then type in this code, and it will reduce the price to 0. Okay. Last thing, if you want a copy of this presentation, it's fully interactive. I'll put the link into the chat now. So just save the link, and you'll be able to access the presentation at any time. All of the links and buttons in it are alive and exactly as you watched it. You can access it through your mobile device or on your computer. So if you want to follow up anything from the session, please do go there. Okay, so that's the end of the session, but I'm here, I can stay around 5 or 10 more minutes. If you have any questions or anything you want to ask about the presentation, feel free to type them into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, thank you very much. Nirmala, I think you're trying to ask a question, but you're muted.
Whoever wants to ask a question, they can raise the hand. I can unmute the particular person. Anybody? Nirmala ma'am?
Thank you so much, Nick.
Ma'am, one
Thank
second.
you.
Somebody is there. She has got a question. Sonia. Yeah. You can go ahead, Sonia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick, sir. The session was wonderful, amazing. Means I fall short of words to thank you for all the wonderful things that you've shared. I would just like
Thank
to
you.
ask you if it is possible for us to check something manually on the screen. Suppose we take a subjective test and we want to manually correct it. So can you guide on that? Thank you very much.
Yeah, in the technology that I used, H5P, for example, you can set up tests that can be checked manually. You can also have polls here, but it depends on the specific nature of what you want to check, I think. It's a difficult question to answer without knowing what exactly it is you want to check.
Thank you so much, Nick. I have a question for you. So
Sure.
these are tools that we can use with private schools and students who have access to, a good device. But how do we manage with the low resource schools and students who are not so fortunate to have these gadgets? Is there a better way, an effective way to manage that?
There are technologies that you can use for that. And Genially, for example, you can export the presentations that I've shown you so that they can be used offline. So then you would be able to export them, put them onto an SD card that you then slot into the side of a phone. And so then it would work without a connection. If you had a phone or a tablet that has no internet connection, you can put them on this little card, and then they would run within the device from the card, even with no connection. So that's one way you can do it. Another technology that's quite useful for building stuff that works offline that can still be interactive is something called Xe-learning. I'll just find a link to it. I've got the link here, yeah. So I'll put the link into the chat. It's called Xe-learning, and it's a technology that was built to enable schools to create interactive content that would work offline. So it can be used for creating, for example, ebooks, which again can be loaded onto mobile devices that don't need a connection, and it can still have multimedia in it, such as audio and video and things like that. So those things are quite useful, to be able to build an interactive ebook or interactive activities that work in the web browser for mobile devices. So I think as long as students have some kind of technology, they don't have to have an internet connection. There are still things that you can build for them that can have audio and video and can be interactive too.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yeah. Padma, are you there? You had a question?
There is one question
Mm.
from Mrs. Ramamani.
Okay.
Put it in the chat box. I can read it out. Please give the name of the book once again and the link from where it can be downloaded.
The name of the book and the link and the code is all in the presentation. So as long as you have the link to the presentation, you can go through and get it from there. And I'll just put the presentation link in again. So there's the presentation link. If you click on that link, you can work through the presentation slides, and the link to the book is there, and the code that you need for it to reduce the price is also there. So as long as you get that link, open it on your mobile device, open it on your computer, open it on anything, and then you should be able to go and download a free copy of the book.
This is really awesome.
Yeah, Shobha, are you there? Bharat, Shobha, you have to unmute her.
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can do it now. She can.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I would like to ask whether this kind of interactive session can be done for primary level, because I'm handling primary level.
That's a really difficult question.
Yeah.
It depends how low, what's the youngest your primary level goes? Because I have a daughter who's 5 years old, and I think for her, I can't see that working unless it's a very short lesson, maybe a 10-minute lesson or a 15-minute lesson, but not a lesson of an hour. Maybe at the higher end of the primary level, it might be possible when students develop better concentration.
Okay.
But at the moment, I'm looking at trying to develop materials for younger learners. And, so for example, the activity that I showed you with the pictures and the mouse, that's sort of one example that I'm looking at. So it is something that I'm exploring in my own materials, but I think it is very challenging. And I think lessons have to be much shorter for primary kids if they're going to work in this kind of environment. I hope that answers the question. That's the best I can do, really.
Shobana?
I think any more questions? Let us check.
Yeah.
I think, ma'am, you can check. Is there any other person who wants to?
I don't see. Yeah, primary was one question. Primary material.
One of the,
Yeah.
Primary materials is challenging, but possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Shobana, are you there? Bharat?
Yeah, 1 second. I'll unmute Shobana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that. She can mute herself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good evening to everyone. A quick round of acknowledgements. Big thank you to our speaker for today, Mr. Nick Peachey. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your time and knowledge with all of us. There is so much that technology can help us with, and an insight to what you've worked on and have shared with all of us. I'm sure all our participants have been given a lot to learn about. Many thanks for coming forward to share the PDF of one of your books. A big thank you, sir. Thank you to President Rotarian Kanapan and Secretary Rotarian Bharat for all their support and technical assistance. A big shout out to Rotarian Nirmala for coordinating this wonderful initiative. Many thanks to all our participants who have joined us over the past few weeks. We hope the 6 presentations have given you much information and an insight into the coming months with remote teaching and learning. A quick reminder about the Innovative Teacher Award to be presented in November. Kindly send in all the details to the email in the poster that was sent to you. That concludes this series of lectures on remote learning and teaching in these challenging times. It's been a pleasure to be part of this initiative. Thank you to all of you once again.
Ma'am, quickly we'll take a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would request everyone to switch on the video. Probably switch on the video. It will be good. I can quickly take a picture. Okay. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Thank you so much, Nick. This was
Thank
just
you.
an attempt to share whatever I've been using in my classes so that teachers benefit out of it. And I'm sure it was a great presentation, and plenty of people are going to view it on our YouTube channel too.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much,
Have
Nick.
a